To kick off this season, Julius Randle is averaging 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists, all of which are pretty significant career highs for him, especially in the assist column, where he has more than doubled his averages of every other season he's played. Being a Knicks fan, our objectively awful rosters in the past few years have led to random players going on streaks like these. We all remember Linsanity. Langsanity was a thing for a little bit with Langston Galloway. Alonzo Trier came out of nowhere and went on a run 2 years ago. Even Alexei Shved averaged 19, 6, and 5 for us in an 8-game span, exactly the amount of games Randle has played this year at the time of this recording. Point is, I don't think that I can mentally handle having another breakout star turn out to not be any important long-term asset. I don't think I'm gonna have to worry about Randle being that. So what makes him different? But before we get into it, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're gonna try to post videos every 2 to 3 days, and you're not gonna want to miss it. With that all out of the way, can we just kick things off acknowledging how weird this is? I was not alone when I came into the season with pretty much zero expectations for Randle. As a matter of fact, I had him ranked 82nd overall in my top 100 players list last year, and people were telling me that that was too high. You can check that video out after this one. There will be a card linking it at the top of the screen right now as we speak. But yeah, I was really blaming all of the Knicks' problems exclusively on him and his style of play last season. But now, in his 7th year, he's beginning to make a drastic jump. After a 6-year, really 5-year sample size after his injury with the Lakers, we usually have a good grasp of what a player will be, especially if they haven't shown much progress in those years. But it appears that Randle is just an outlier. Okay, so why is this all happening? The first reason is Coach Thibs. Thibs really has just made everyone better, and although it is a low bar, I will admit, it is clear that he is a real coach running a real system. Effort and coachability has never been a real issue for any Knicks player in recent years. The real issue has always just been the fact that they were never that good at the game of basketball. Thibs very clearly didn't have any issues trying to get the guys listening and following the rules the way he struggled to do so in Minnesota, which is the main reason I think that using his time with the Wolves as evidence that he won't be great for New York, kind of, for lack of a better term, stupid. Anyways, in Thibs' system, Randle is at the forefront of pretty much everything. Last season, Randle was playing point forward in the first half of the year, and then was moved down into the paint and became our go-to ISO guy after Marcus Morris had been traded. Both roles were not best utilizing Randle. He's not a guard or ball handler, or a guy that can finesse his way through doubles or triples, so forcing him to do that is going to result in turnovers being racked up fast. Last year he ranked 19th in turnovers, which would sound fine if you didn't realize that everyone ahead of him outside of Lonzo Ball was either an all-star or pretty much guaranteed to become one in the very near future. And although he's still getting them turnovers, his increased level of production makes it a little more reasonable. The two main issues that Randle had last year consisted of spinning into doubles and making passes way too late. Thibs saw this and was like, no, let's not let him do this. It actually is an ongoing joke that Thibodeau says the same exact things in each and every one of his post-game interviews, and one of those things he always talks about is spacing. You can see it on this play here. In a game that Randle had 28, 12, and 11, Drummond tries to sneak up behind him and put him in the situation he's become infamous for choking up in, a double team. But as a result of the fantastic spacing New York has had this year, Drummond is going to have to return back to Mitchell Robinson really quickly so that either him or Reggie Bullock doesn't get a wide open shot. The fantastic spacing here just makes it impossible for Cedi Osman to guard both players to even a serviceable degree. Check out what happens on the rest of this play. Randle is patient. He is a good post player, but he's not going to be as aggressive and out of control in his attack. Instead, the Knicks run some sort of motion. A bunch of players cut as Bullock stays ready at the 3-point arc, and Randle Randle eventually finds RJ Barrett for the layup. Last year, he would never have done this. He would have went, attacked, posted up, and probably turned it over. This is how Randle has been getting many of his assists. If you notice, this pass is nothing special. It's quick, short, and simple. And that's the thing. Randle isn't a great passer, but he appears to be willing to listen to Thibodeau and play the role of the guy who makes passes from the post to open cutters. He's not going to get many assists on any other system. We've seen it throughout his entire career, but the Knicks have just used him perfectly. The new amounts of spacing have also allowed him to thrive when he wants to score. This one is a little more self-explanatory, but if people can't double him as much, he's going to get more points. Randle is super strong and can usually bully most other power forwards, a position mainly occupied by players that would pass as small forwards in any other generation. Randle can't. He's a real power forward and he's gonna bully these guys. A couple years back, MDJ made a great video discussing how power forwards of this new generation have adjusted their games to either play like small forwards or like centers. And it's true. He pointed out that this was a big reason why Blake Griffin had been struggling. He was the last true power forward left and was having an identity crisis. Under this logic, Randle should be undergoing this same crisis, but he's not. As a matter of fact, we've seen he's only getting better. What MDJ didn't point out is that there are also a lot of benefits in being one of the only players left that play the way you do, so long as you're in a system that encourages you to play this way. We saw it with D'Angelo Russell a few years back in Brooklyn. The death of the mid-range shot led to the death of the mid-range defender, allowing him to get off a lot of good looks in the mid-range. Under that same thought, nobody cares about true power forwards anymore, so when they are forced to guard one, they're kind of out of their comfort zones and are gonna get shaken, especially against someone who's a fantastic player in the post-up area like Randle. It's really just all about balance. Would a classic power forward like Kevin McHale be great in modern day? Who knows? But there's a reason why Randle and Jahlil Okafor have had two drastically different career trajectories, because although Randle is a true power forward, you can't really call him an old school player. He's a good catch and shoot shooter, but also has pretty good handle, and most importantly, is very agile and mobile. He really is the full package, and is the epitome of what a true power forward should look like in the modern age, minus, of course, the poor defense, which he is still improving on. You'd be crazy to call it elite defense, but you'd also be just as crazy to call it bad. He's a middle of the pack defender, and although that's not great for a number one option and star type player, he is getting better. At the end of the day, it all comes down to willingness. Randle has been humble this year. He sacrificed being as aggressive as he usually is and is making a lot more passes. And the question of if he can keep up his play really just comes down to if he can keep this mindset up. Players do get tired of not playing the way they want, but if you're benefiting out of it also, I think you're gonna have less of a reason to be against it. I just hope that people can see the difference between Randle's rise and the run TJ Warren made last year. Randle isn't flinging up any wild shots or going on inexplicable hot streaks. He's playing a better, more sustainable brand of basketball. Will he keep it up? Obviously, I can't say for sure, but it definitely is more likely that he does compared to many of the other guys we see all of a sudden blow up. For the sake of the video, I'm going to say yes, he will keep this up. And whether you want to chalk that conclusion up to me just being a biased Knicks fan, or, well, all the evidence I just gave you, well, that's just up to you. And I guess I'll see you guys at the end of the season when Randle gets his MVP. And with that, I'm going to conclude this one. The socials, as always, are flashing up on screen. Be sure to subscribe. We can keep this conversation going in the comments. And with that, stay safe out there.